Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Aurora Play, a refillable pod system by Vaporesso. This product was sent to me for the purpose of this review. Let's go ahead and open up the box and see what comes with it. Inside of the box, you're going to have your Aurora Play refillable pod system, a spare pod cartridge, a refillable juice container, and a micro USB charging cable. Taking a closer look at the Aurora Play refillable pod system, the dimensions on this is going to be 16 millimeters by 79 millimeters by 44 millimeters. The refillable tank capacity on it is going to be 2 mLs of e-liquid, and the built-in battery is going to be 650 milliamp hours, and the charging current is going to be 1 amp charging. The color that I received is this brushed stainless, which looks very nice, very beautiful. I really do like it. If we flip it over here to the side, you're going to see there is your on and off button, and below that is going to be your micro USB charging port. Flipping it over to the back, you see the little Vaporesso logo there at the bottom. This is your e-liquid viewing window here, which is the same on both sides. There's a little bit of information on the side about the device, and as you can see, there is a hinge here. If we lift up on the lid, then we'll be able to see the mouthpiece as well as your fill port. Now this fill port is a push to fill, so you'll just stick the nozzle of your bottle down there and push down and squeeze to fill the pod. If we go ahead and remove the pod, which is in there pretty tightly, as you can see when I try to remove the pod, the little drip tip cover comes off and there's your mouthpiece. So let's push that back on and try to just wiggle that pod out. Again, it's held in there very securely, and what I find is I just got to kind of teeter it back and forth and wiggle it to get it to a point where I can pull out. So the cartridge itself here is made of plastic. We'll need to remove this little sticker before we insert the pod to fire it. So at the bottom you can see your 2 contacts for the battery. Here's the shape of the pod. Now the coil that's inside is a ceramic coil, and it's going to be a 1.3 ohm ceramic coil, and the spare pod that you get is also a 1.3 ohm ceramic coil. Big pro that they did include 2 pods with this device, and again, as I said, there's the filling hole at the top, and you can see the mechanism right there for the way it pops down, and then e-liquid is going to fill this whole reservoir, and you can kind of see the coil in there and see the little wicking holes around that coil. So let's go ahead and fill this pod. So they did include a 10 ml e-juice filling bottle here, and I'll go ahead and show you what the stem of that looks like. So I guess this means they're wanting you to use liquid bottles that have this kind of stem or a similar stem. The bottle that I'm going to be using doesn't have a stem exactly like this one, but it is very similar. Now, of course, with this push to fill method, you're not going to be able to use dropper bottles. So if you use glass drippers, you will need to transfer it to a different bottle that has a little plastic tip. So let me go ahead and show you when I push in how that little port opens up there when I push in. So I'm just going to push down and go ahead and squeeze to fill. So one thing I am noticing is that holding this down and pushing down to fill it while on camera, I can't see the e-liquid level, so it's a little hard for me to tell whether or not I've got the pod filled. So I'm just going to take it off camera here and take a look at it real quick. So I did get my pod full there. As you can see, there is a little air bubble in there, and I could probably try to put a little bit more in there, but there is no air outlet for this, so I really don't want to risk over flooding that coil. So I'm just going to leave it filled to the way that I have it. Now, as you can see, there is a little bit of e-liquid that did puddle up there on the top where I was filling it, and I just used my finger to kind of wipe that away. So I am going to want to let this cartridge sit and fully saturate for 5 to 10 minutes. So as you may have noticed, I did not show that there is a user guide or warranty card with this device, and that's because I received the reviewer sample. Now in your packaging, you will have a user guide and warranty card, but for me, I'm just gonna have to wing it. So we're just gonna pop that cartridge down in there. It sits really nice and snug. Now taking a look at the door, there is a little play side to side, but it is fully metal construction. So it does have quite a bit of weight to it, as well as the latch on the top. The latch itself is made of metal. However, the little pieces here on the side that hold it together are made of plastic, which is a little bit of a concern for me, just because plastic over time, you know, there's a chance that that plastic could break. And then of course my lid part would no longer cover it. Now, of course, this is going to be fully functional whether the lid is there or not, but I would have liked to have seen that portion of this to be also made of metal, just because it would have increased the strength of it, especially since this is going to be getting used a lot. And it's got a very nice spring action there. Feels really nice in the hand. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that little LED light there, but 5 clicks to turn on the device. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it's going to flash a few different colors. And then of course, when you push that button, it is going to light up green when you fire it. And that is the Vaporesso Aurora Play. Let's go back up top, have a vape on it, and I'll give you my thoughts and opinions. Okay, and that was an up-close look at the Aurora Play by Vaporesso. So what are my thoughts on this little refillable pod system? Well, let's start with the pros, and I'm going to warn you, there's a lot of pros to this device for the way that I vape. So first pro on this is going to be fit and finish. I love this brushed metal finish, and it's made of zinc alloy, so it has a bit of weight to it, which I like. With the brush finished, I don't ever have to worry about paint chipping, so that's always going to be a pro. The next pro on this device is going to be that it is a push to fill mechanism on the top of the pod. So the push to fill on the top means it's almost a mess-free, hassle-free filling system. Now there are a couple little tricks to it. When you're putting your bottle in, if you squeeze too hard or if you overfill the pod, you are going to get some spillage. But what's nice is that the push to fill is located right there on the top, so you can just wipe away the excess, close the lid, and you're good to go. You don't have to worry about any excess e-liquid coming out of the push to fill and draining down into your battery or your electrical components. So that's a big pro on the way that they did that push to fill on this pod. The next pro on it is going to be that it's a 2 ml capacity pod, so you've got plenty of e-liquid for this style of vaping device. Additional to that, the accessories are a big pro because they included 2 extra pods, as well as that little 10 ml refilling bottle, which I thought was a nice little perk. But the big pro was that they included 2 pods with the device. Next pro on this is going to be that it has 5 clicks on and off. I like pod systems where I can 5 clicks turn off my device when I'm storing it. That way it's not always on, especially ones that are draw activated like this one is. The next pro on it is going to be the LED indicator. It's non-intrusive, so it does have a nice bright LED indicator, but it's not overly intrusive, and when you push the button you can see the LED indicator, but it's not super bright and glaring. And then it does have the green, blue, and red indicator for battery life. Next pro on this is going to be the Omni Mini chip inside. With the Omni Mini chip, you have temperature control, or a form of temperature control. Basically what the Omni Mini board in here does is if your coil is not saturated or it's dry, it will not fire the coil, and I really like that. It keeps you from getting dry hits, and it keeps you from burning your coil and going through more pods more quickly. So that's a big pro to me for it having that little bit of temperature control in there. Next pro on this is going to be that it has 650 milliamp hour battery. So that means that I'm going to be able to get quite a bit of time, and compared to some other more stick-like pod systems, it's almost double the battery life of those. So 650 milliamp hours for me personally won't get me through a whole day of vaping, but it will get me at least halfway, if not 3/4 of the way. So the big battery in here is really nice. Now, talking about the battery, this battery is also direct output. So with direct output, the strength in your vape is going to decrease as the strength in your battery decreases. I really wish that this was a constant output instead of a direct output. Speaking of the vape strength on this, I really like the vape on this pod system. So now let's get into the pros of how does it vape. So it is a very nice, tight, restrictive mouth to lung vape. It does not have adjustable airflow control. I'll go ahead and demonstrate what the vape is like on it for you now. So there is a regular mouth to lung vape for you. It's really warm, which is surprising. A lot of pod systems are more on the cooler side. This one creates a really nice, really flavorful, warm, dense vapor production. So I really like it, and it gets a big pro for that. So again, though, as I mentioned, it is non-adjustable airflow. So if you're someone that likes a looser mouth to lung or direct lung, this device may not be for you because it does have a very tight mouth to lung draw, which I think is great because it's going to be great for smokers transitioning over to vaping. This is a device that's going to mimic that cigarette pull, and I like that. Also, additionally, you can vape while charging. This has 1 amp charging, so you can charge the device in little under an hour, and if you do need to, you can vape on it while it's charging, so that's a big pro for me. Now, a subjective con will be this drip tip. Unfortunately, it is a proprietary drip tip, so you're not going to be able to change out this drip tip and you are stuck with it. I think the drip tip fits it wonderfully and it is nice and comfortable in the mouth, but if you don't like the drip tip, be aware that you can't change the drip tip. Now, as far as cons go, I really don't have any major cons about this device. I will say there's a couple subjective things. One is going to be this lid. It is quite wiggly and flimsy. It does have some play in the lid, so if you don't have your finger bracing the lid while you're vaping it, it will jiggle around on you. Additionally, I did notice that the contact point, or the fasten point, I guess you would say, where the lid is attached to the body of this device, is made of plastic. I would have liked that joint to been made of metal just for stability as well as longevity. I'm afraid that if I were to drop this device with the lid open, there is a possibility of that plastic cracking. So I would have liked to have seen Vaporesso made that joint of metal. And really, that's all the negative things I have about it. Another big pro to it is this really nice, easy to see through viewing window for your e-liquid. Again, as I said, the vape on this is really nice. It's really flavorful. The C-cell coils inside last a really long time for, you know, compared to a regular round wire with cotton. The C-cell coils have a layer of cotton and then ceramic and then the coil inside, which in my opinion produces better flavor, as well as the coils tend to last a little bit longer. So that's my thoughts on the Aurora Play by Vaporesso. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, click that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, bye bye.